Here we are backstage, you guys. DURAN, it's Valentine from MyFM. We're just discussing drinks of choice. For me, I have to start my day with a cup of coffee. For you guys, it's different.
I think coffee, the thing about coffee is it kind of gets worse every process it goes through. It smells wonderful when you grind it, and then you pour water on it, it's not quite so good, and you taste it, it's horrible. But you like it. I'm just being mean to him.
No, I'm starting to question myself based on your success that perhaps I should look back at coffee differently than I look at it every single day at every Starbucks I go to and give them my $2. But thanks, I feel good
Don't
about
feel
this.
too bad. But I'm a coffee guy in the morning.
You are? Oh, thank God.
My hot tea thing is
Yeah.
like a late at night thing. It's a different.
Yeah.
In the mornings, I need my. I like my coffee. I like that buzz in the morning.
Have you tried that cup of coffee that they tell you about? I'm not going to have the name of it. Perhaps you guys have heard about it. It's very, very expensive. It's, excuse me, what did you want to talk about? The album?
No,
I thought we were going to do coffee talk.
actually, yeah.
Let's jump to the album then. Okay,
yeah.
let's get to that. So, where did this one come from, this new album?
Well, it's been in us for a long time. I think this album it was quite a, we had a massive tour and project that followed the release of Red Carpet Massacre, which was very fulfilling. But there was, we felt it missed in some ways, and we got together with Mark Ronson and as he had promised to get together with us to start work on a new album, and he had a very clear idea of what he wanted to achieve. I think it's the first time we ever really discussed the direction of an album with a producer before we really started getting into the serious business of recording tracks.
What was the Duran sound? If you could try and find me a time, just for our sake, years, where would you nail it?
Well, Mark's favourite album was the Rio album.
Yeah.
And I think it's the combination of. I mean, that album was chock filled with personalities. I mean, there was 5 very hungry guys, who really wanted to be heard, and you can really hear the fight that is going on between the bassist and the drummer and the guitar player. It's a very, very. It's got a lot of musical personality, and I think as we got older, we kind of quietened down a little bit, and like so many things in the music business, we went a little mainstream, and we kind of lost our individuality. And Red Carpet Massacre, although was a very satisfying album in a number of ways, it was a very hip hop style of production for us. There was very little bass guitar on it from my side, very little Nick's style of keyboard, and we went really far out that way. It wasn't that we weren't involved in the composition or the arrangements, but it could have been a Simon solo record, and immediately the fan base reacted quite negatively to that.
They said, this isn't what we want to hear from you guys. If you don't connect with your fan base, the record isn't really going to be a hit, because you need that burst, that initial thrust of the fans all going out and getting it, which shows up on all the research, and that makes the radio stations go, we'll play that because there's people are listening to it, and it just didn't happen with that record.
I mean, the thing being that experience made us ready to hear what Mark had to say.
Yeah.
Right.
If we'd have been sitting with Mark 3 years earlier, maybe we'd have said, forget about it, no way, we want to make something that sounds like nobody's ever made before, like we've never made before. Yeah. But because of that experience, we were ready to go back.
Is that humility then, speaking?
Well, I think what it is it's not so much humility, but it's facing certain home truths like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is what Duran sound like, and this is actually what your fans want to hear from you. And accepting that it's a truth, and you have to accept it because it is the truth. Either accept it or fail, really.
Except if you want the commercial success.
And yes, and I think it is a kind of humility. Yeah, and I think humility is a very important thing for everybody to experience.
I think it's neat as you talk about you guys all together back in the Rio days, and how there's 5 guys struggling to be heard. How you were able to take 5 guys struggling to be heard on stage and form a sound that still didn't overshadow each other.
Yeah, with 20,000 people screaming at you at the same time.
That's amazing.
Well, we kind of came along at the tail end of the 70s. The 70s, at least as far as British music was concerned, was very, personality driven. I mean, kids were into, the best keyboard player of the year and the best bass player of the year. I mean,
right.
you don't have those kind of polls anymore.
Yeah.
People don't vote on that stuff anymore,
Yeah.
you know. But in the 70s they did. So we came together at a time where it was important that the bassist had a voice and the keyboard player had a voice. And you hear that in the early Duran records.
We were very aware of the way that music had kind of, music from younger bands had come round very much to a style that we were doing. But that didn't make us want to do it. We kind of felt that they were treading over our old ground, and we were happy to carry on with something new.
Right.
Well,
So at Sound
the best thing we did was
Yeah.
to let ourselves be taken back a little bit.
Right.
But the last thing we wanted to do was to make an album that sounded old-fashioned. I mean, it's all very well saying, yes, you've made an album that could have been the follow-up to Rio. Well, yes, in some ways, maybe spiritually, yes, and in style, it's more avant-garde. But it's not. It doesn't. We don't want to make an album that sounds like it was made in the 80s, because modern sound, modern recording is fantastic, and the kind of sounds you hear now are great. And you have to make something that sounds modern so it fits in on the radio.